Hello, my name is Jaden Chong, and today I'm going to give a video tutorial on mainly the piece called the Arabesque, which is a piece which in this case was composed by Burgmüller. This is an old kind of classical to romantic era piece, and it is a piece in which it's a seemingly simple piece, but one which actually requires a fair amount of dexterity. With the parts that are going to be shown here, I'm only going to be going up to bars 10 of the first time ending. So, what I'll do first is that I'll now play it from the beginning and up to that point. 1, 2, 1, 2. Alright, so with that particular piece, I did accidentally lean into the second time bar 11 a little bit, but case in point, there's a few little dynamics which need to be noted. First off, with our first two bars of 2-2, because with this piece, we are featuring this in 2-2. Oh no, excuse me, 2-4. So we're just having a very staccato left hand. Not too loud, almost like with the way that the hand should be shaped, it should be kind of like a hen plucking at the ground or plucking at a bit of bird seed. So making sure that we're kind of quiet. Because if the hen's going to be going really loudly, I mean that's kind of going too soon, right? We're kind of going too loud too soon. So we need to make sure that, and with that as well, we need to make sure that our hands aren't exactly kind of going overkill like one, that gets a little bit tiring on the wrist and the hand. So we're going to make sure that we're not doing that so much. So we're just going to make sure that we're just tapping it very lightly. And in this piece, I remember when I first learned this a while ago, it was always a kind of hand-separate approach. So with my own teaching philosophy, I love to make sure that everything's kind of done hands separately first, and then hands together. So while I played it in terms of hands together, as you might have seen just now, I'm slightly out of practice with this one, freely admitting. But I always make sure that when I'm learning a piece, hands separately, and just kind of leading back into the little repeated section there. And even in cases like that, because I just demonstrated the left hand here, that was leading into that second time ending just a little bit there. But case in point, I've got to make sure that you always do hands separately first, at least from my own personal philosophy. Now, in terms of some of the more dynamic kind of entries, we at least see that from this beginning part, we have a very kind of piano kind of backing. In the sheet music for it, it insists on the second bar that when the right hand goes, we have what's called leggero, and that means rather agile. So we have to have just a little bit of a hand plucking, henny left hand. And then we also see that within this piece as well, we take note of things like crescendos, whether it's going just a little bit louder or a little bit softly, and then, pardon the cardinal, sforzando, and then back to our piano. And so, we're going to take really great care and note, because while we have our very henny left hand, we have a right hand which is, in our combination, a very legato, very moving section, because otherwise it would be sounding like just very accented, or that's its own different challenges, and that's not exactly this piece. What we're trying to aim for within this particular piece is that we're making sure that we're having just that heavy left hand and flowing right hand. And making sure that we're really taking care of our dynamic influences here. And also making sure, and this is a little bit more noticed with our hand technique as well, we need to make sure that we're using our wrists and that we're not, and that we're making sure that we're using our wrists, da-da-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-dum, ba-ba-ba-ba. And even with our left hand, the henny left hand, we're not using our hand necessarily for strength. Because if I were to use the hand purely, one, that's a little bit too loud, but also that also puts a little bit of pressure on the wrist that we don't really need. So when we're making sure that we do this, just we're just making sure, pardon me for that one, but we just need to make sure that when we do this, it's a very relaxed sort of feeling. But again, with the hand separately point, we need to make sure that we're doing this separately, or at least in my own personal philosophy. If one wishes to go about this doing it on a hands together first approach, sure. But with the philosophy that I've kind of adopted over these years, we need to make sure. I find that it's always good to have some of that articulation going, just getting some of the more subtle details and then combining it. And when we finally do do hands together, we do it slowly. Case in point, but just making sure that when we do eventually combine it to the hands together point, we make sure that it is done slowly and methodically and just slowly and surely, but refining. Pardon me, I'm losing my words today. But making sure that we really refine those points. Okay? I hope that you've enjoyed this video lesson, and I hope that this has taught you a little bit of something. Take care.